So you don't open the body. You start off with the foot. And you dissect it. You don't just look at it. You have blades, you dissect, and the lecturer is moving around. Then you look, you remove the meat. Whatever you remove, it's thrown into a polythene bag. All that is disposed. But as you go, you dislocate, you go.
Yes.
He would come over and we would go out and excavate dogs that had died. It was just a passion he had.
Wow.
Even when he was in high school, before he went to university. We would excavate, and now because I'm his younger brother, we would go together.
You go with him?
Yeah, we would excavate the dogs.
Why would he do that? Welcome back to the executive table. We continue with the conversations. Very exciting with the Dr. Githinji Gitahi. Let's continue watching. Now, Daktari, tell us about medicine and what happened at medical school, including those gory details of that dead fella.
Mr. Cadaver.
He's called Mr. Cadaver. Is it Mr. or Mrs. Cadaver?
Mrs. or Mr. because it could be a male or a female body.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay. Tell us.
So I get to medical school at the end of 1990.
Yes.
And when you get to medical school, the training of medical school in Kenya, we must say first, is extremely practical and robust.
Wow.
Very practical and robust. And the foundation that it was built is a really good foundation, because for you to be a doctor and actually be able to make diagnosis and help people, you need to understand first the structure of the human body. What is it made of? Is it muscles, the arteries, where are they? The nerves, where are they? The eyes, what's connected to them? You have to understand the entire, it's like being a mechanic. You have to put the car down, all of it, and then say, I see, this is what this is. This is how it works.
What connects with
what? Connects with what? So that's the form of the human body. Then you have to understand the function of that form. The function is, so how does the blood flow? Why does it flow? What hormone does this? What does this? What does this? So the form of the human body is human anatomy.
Yes.
That's the anatomy, that's the form. Then we go to the function, it is physiology. How does it happen? In a normal human being, that's where you start.
Yes.
And then you then go ahead to say, so what informs the function?
Yes.
Then you do something called the biochemistry to understand the chemicals in the body, because the body is made up of chemicals, hormones muscles. Are chemicals, and the form is the muscles and everything else and bones. So you have to understand that. Before now you start saying, if this disease happens, this is what happens. You have to first know the normal form
operation
and function. So when you get to medicine, the first thing that you do is to learn the form of the human body. That form is learned through human anatomy. And the way to teach human anatomy in Kenya and in many other countries, we know now countries in America and Europe and other developed countries have moved to what we call simulation. So you see the body on a computer, and you can turn it and do this and dissect. For us, even today, our students are learning on the actual human body. So those bodies would come from people at that point, because people had not started saying, I give my body for research. It would be bodies that were never collected, bodies of communities that don't bury, and those would be respectively received, and then they would actually be the ones
for demonstration.
For demonstration. So my Mrs. Cadaver was a Maasai woman. And when you go there, you go to the anatomy lab, and all of you, there's a table. That table has your body. It is covered in a polythene bag, okay? And then you're told, now you have more students per body because there are more population, but at that point we were very few. We were probably just 114 students. So when you go, you're probably 4 people per body. You stand around it. Of course, you've done your introduction. So what you do is you go to a lecture. You'll be told how the foot, you start with the foot. You see, this is how the foot is structured. You'll be shown diagrams, you study everything, the bones, the toes, the muscles. Once you finish that, you go for the practical in the afternoon. Now you dissect the foot. And as you're dissecting, you're looking at your notes, you're like, oh, I see, I get this. So it's actually really, really good training.
Very practical.
Very practical.
Yeah.
So that time, the body is covered all the way to the head with a polythene. So you don't open the body. You start off with the foot. And you dissect it. You don't just look at it. You have blades, you dissect, and the lecturer is moving around. Then you look, you remove the meat. Whatever you remove, it's thrown into a polythene bag. All that is disposed. But as you go, you dislocate, you go on.
Yes.
Then the next lesson, you're taught about the leg. Then you go now again practical. So that's how you study.
Very systematic.
Very systematic.
Yeah.
And by the end of the academic year, you're in the head because you start from the bottom.
To foot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And every structure you go, you've learned everything where it is. And as you go, you're doing exams, of course. You have CATs, continuous assessment. That process at the beginning, there are many people that get startled by it. Because when you get in and there's a dead body, depending on your upbringing, your history, what you've watched, what you're processing in your head, you could feel this is not for me. So we had students who dropped out.
Who dropped out at that point.
There's some who
was too much for
this
them.
is not for me. I'll go to pharmacy.
Yes.
And you could change and go.
Yeah.
And we stayed on, and you finished that year. At the same time, you are now learning the physiology and the biochemistry, so that you can relate, so that when you get to the liver, you also know this is the liver, this is how it looks. You can cut it and see what's inside, but you also know which hormones are available around the liver, which ones act in the pancreas, So you are relating the function and the form through the entire year.
Yes, yes.
So that's actually what you go through, and then every part as you dissect and you remove, it's being discarded. And then at the end, you now remove the polythene paper completely. Now you have the head, you dissect it, see the brain, the eyes, the ears, how it is. That's actually anatomy. Yes.
Did you enjoy the studies?
I did. I enjoyed thoroughly. And let me tell you why. When I was a young boy, I was in high school, my elder brother, Professor Kiama, is a vet doctor. He did veterinary medicine. But before, he had a lot of interest
Maybe
in...
for the sake of the viewers who don't know who Professor Kiama is, you can explain what he does.
So Professor Githinji Gitahi is the outgoing Vice Chancellor of the University of Nairobi. He's a professor of human anatomy at the university. And when we were growing up, he is older than me by about 7 years. So I was always looking up to him. And he would do these very interesting things. He would come over and we would go out and excavate dogs that had died. And it was just a passion he had. Even when he was in high school, before he went to university. When we would excavate, and now because I'm his younger brother, we would go together.
You go with him?
Yeah, we would excavate the dogs.
Why would he do that?
He would clean up, and then he would get the bone structure. Because now the dogs had already rotten and everything. Get the bone structure, then we would put up wire or cable through the vertebral column, the column of the bones, all the way down, and he would hang it in his, what we used to call cubicle, in his cube. The thingira, the small place where young men used to sleep.
Yes.
We used to sleep there with him. He would hang it in the room. And therefore, I grew up seeing that. So for me, when I came to anatomy, it was so interesting. It was actually very interesting for me. And actually, it was so good for me that when I finished the first year of anatomy, I had a distinction in anatomy. I did not have a distinction in biochemistry and physiology, but
Anatomy
I had a distinction in anatomy. It was my best.
Unit.
In fact, I wanted to continue with it. I wanted to say, let me first stop my journey of medicine. I'll come back to it.
And pay
let
more
me first do a
attention
master's, pay some attention to anatomy, and then understand this thing deeper, because it was so interesting for me. But then that step of stepping out to continue with anatomy had started earlier, but was stopped in a year.
It was not allowed.
In that year, it was not allowed. That particular, it came back later. I don't know why. I don't remember why. And therefore, I just continued medicine. But that's how interesting anatomy was. I actually used to be, I started actually training other students in anatomy.
Wow, you
So
are
it was
that
fun.
good.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
So you took what, 5 years in medicine? The whole course in the university
was meant to be 5 years.
5 years.
But we had 1 year. You remember during the Moi time, there's a time lecturers were on strike for 1 year.
Yes.
So that 1 year.
So you wasted 1 year.
We wasted 1 year.
You basically took 6 years.
We took 6 years.
Okay.
And that year, I did most of my entrepreneurship. I did funny things here and there. I started doing medical camps. I got into student politics. I got into organizing conferences. So I got into a lot of entrepreneurship mischief that also built my future, because actually I started to see what else you can do when you're not actually in school. So it was actually for me also a useful year.
No, I think you need to tell us more about that, because, also what we are seeing is people, when something goes wrong somewhere, okay, university has been closed.
Yes.
It's like the end of life for me.
Yeah.
But for you are saying the fact that university is closed, it's time for me to explore other passions or try to make a little bit of money here and there. Absolutely. So I think you need to talk a little bit about more how we deal with those difficult moments, which some of us see as negative moments, but you can turn it around into a positive moment that is very productive and fruitful.
Correct.
Yeah.